Are you ready to move from an ordinary life to an extraordinary one where you meet your business goals, create a life that has success in health, wealth, and for self? Then come and join us for our retreat in Byron Bay, Australia at the end of July, start of August 2025, and come and rediscover who you really are. More details can be found at willowhealing.org.
Welcome to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We are so excited to have you joining us on this journey where we explore different ways to empower your soul, whether it's healing in your kitchen or all the way up in the corporate world. Come with us as we look into different ways to heal your mind, body, and soul. Hey everyone, it's Catherine from Willow Healing, and today with me I have Sophia Tarini. So she is a certified clinical EFT practitioner and an NCS trainer under Dr. Joe Dispenza, and she specializes in hacking reality and meta consciousness to help individuals break free from recurring negative thought patterns, reduce stress, and achieve lasting clarity and calm. Her trauma-informed approach provides personalized care, guiding clients through deep emotional healing and personal transformation. With a master's in public health and epidemiology and experience as a network engineer, her background offers a unique blend of science and holistic healing. Her journey into EFT began after overcoming a debilitating chronic illness. Having exhausted conventional medical treatment, she discovered the transformative power of EFT and hacking reality techniques, which restored her health and inspired her to transition from healthcare administration to offering EFT services worldwide. Her work is rooted in the belief that everyone holds the key to their own healing. Sophia offers tailored services to help individuals overcome anxiety, stress, trauma, and emotional blocks, empowering them to create lasting positive change in their lives. So, a big welcome to the show, Sophia.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's an honor for me to be here.
I'm so excited. So, for anyone who doesn't know what EFT is, did you want to unpack that? Because it's such a
Absolutely.
powerful healing
So,
technique.
clinical EFT, first of all, is evidence-based EFT. And EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Techniques. And it's a combination of cognitive psychotherapy and acupuncture without needles. So we physically tap to the body's meridians. And it's believed that when we don't feel the energy or our emotions in the body, it gets stuck. And by putting our awareness on it and saying these sentences, the energy that was never processed starts to move. Because emotions are energy in motion, and all the chemicals that we get from the limbic brain, if we don't feel them, eventually become toxic in the body and they cause dis-ease. The body is not at ease. That's what clinical EFT is all about.
And I love that what you said, emotions are energy in motion. That is such a beautiful description of how emotions do flow through our body. And I fully resonate too with what you were saying. When you don't address it, when you don't feel it to heal it, I like to say feel it to heal it, it does end up being dis-ease in your body and can end up in tragedy.
That's correct. And people forget I don't remember if it's the first or the second principle in thermodynamics. Energy can never be created or destroyed, it can only be transmuted. So the limbic brain sends emotions to the body based on the experiences we have, and that has information. And that information is important for us to address our reality. And as children, we get traumatized and we completely disconnect. We're like walking heads. And so that energy over the years becomes toxic and then it gets accumulated and accumulated. And there's a big difference between emotions and feelings. And the average person doesn't know that. So emotions, if we process them in the moment, last 90 seconds. That's what research has shown. And feelings could linger for weeks, months, years. And if you want me to, I can give an example of the difference.
Yeah, definitely. That's
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
So let's assume it's the middle of the night, 4 a.m. in the morning, and all of a sudden you hear this strange noise as if someone's trying to break in to your home in the kitchen, let's say. Your door is in the kitchen. So the reticular activating system, you heard the noise, wakes you up, you go to the kitchen, and all of a sudden you see it's the cat, and you say, take a breath, and you say, oh my goodness, it's the cat. I am safe. And you let it go. So person goes back to bed. There is nothing to be stored here. The person acknowledged it, didn't put any stories. Now we have the other person. Same story. Here's the noise, goes to the kitchen. I can't believe this darn cat. My boyfriend wanted this cat. I should murder this cat. It's happened so many times. I don't know what to do. The cat woke me up at 4 a.m. I only have 2 hours of sleep. I can't take it anymore. That is when we start adding languaging and all this other stuff. Now it becomes a feeling. There are 6 emotions, which are bodily sensations, and they're universal. The feelings, now with all the stories, are individualized, whatever it is, and there are tons of them. And so now, if we linger on that, it's going to become a problem. Let's say you have 20 scenarios of that with the anger. Now you're storing anger in your body. So your liver is going to start having problems down the road.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. I am the person that stored anger instead of getting angry and have liver problems. Yep. So definitely. And I love that explanation, Sophia, of how, emotions are gone once you just address it, right? And then the
Yes,
feelings.
and you can breathe into it.
Yeah.
Like you said, like the first scenario is, oh my goodness, it
Yeah.
was the cat. Oh, I'm safe. I can go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And then whereas the feelings is where all the stories and then the negative self-talk comes in and all those fun things that our mind is like, oh, we can make a story and have fun with this and see what
Absolutely. You
happens.
hit that one right. And I have tons of those too.
Yeah.
So it's universal.
That's it. And I guess too, it is universal because we all go through this. And even when you think, oh, I've done so much work, unpacking my emotions, it's so layered. Like I always see it as like an onion, right? Like you're like, I thought I dealt with this situation, but it's another emotion that has now embodied into a feeling that comes up. So there's like all these layers of feelings attached to this one event because instead of addressing it in the moment, it's got its power and turned into a momentous kind of snowball effect almost.
Absolutely. And we have certain default emotions. So we can be stuck in anger and some mild fear because we're familiar. And what happens, what I've noticed with clients, they really don't want to go to the emotion below it, which is usually some sort of sadness and then some sort of fear or powerlessness. And so they clear or they work on the anger a little bit, or maybe they've worked enough on the anger and then they want to stop. And that's it. Unfortunately, I don't know if you're familiar with the Maps of Consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins, because emotions are fully mapped. And anything below 200 on the Maps of Consciousness has been tested, muscle tested, and it's life depleting. So shame is really low on the bottom of the
list.
of the
Yeah.
And then anything above 200, which is actually your third energy center, your third chakra, as people call, if it's balanced and you have neutrality, now the body is not anymore being taxed. At 540, which is above the heart, which is joy, that's where you get the spontaneous healing. And Dr. David Hawkins extensively researched it, and I often use the maps of consciousness because it also shows you how you view the world. So if you have a lot of fear, you will view the world as or source as punitive, and it's a vengeful source. And the higher up you go, you start feeling oneness.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, and I love that. The
it's so much. People still try and say we don't have auras and energy and all these sort of things, but things like the work by Dr. David Hawkins and the HeartMath Institute and even Dr. Joe Dispenza, who you trained with, it's all proving actually no, we can actually measure this now. And if you still think we're not energy beings, like, what's going on? You'll believe in why. That's the big thing that's been floating around. I don't know about you, but I keep getting the memes pop up like, you believe in Wi-Fi, why don't you believe in us being energy beings? So
That's cute. That's very cute. So, having addressed that we are energy beings, since these low frequency deplete us, the person who really wakes up exhausted every day is because, well, there's two reasons for it. Number one, those frequencies, those lower frequency emotions tax the body so you don't have any energy. Anything above the heart regenerates us. But also, when we have traumatic memories, they keep on replaying actually in your head. You're not seeing it. Those memories keep on replaying and flashing up and draining your body, and you're not getting extensive, long delta sleep. I'm not talking the REM, complete delta sleep, because they're replaying. And that's why people get exhausted. And people who are depressed, they usually have a lot of internalized anger, and then it drops their frequency, because the body is a battery, which is why the first thing they do when you die is they take two paddles to jumpstart the heart. If you weren't the battery, you wouldn't be doing that.
Exactly. And it's like trying to recharge the circuit, right? And I guess that's why things like grounding and like are such pertinent things, because the earth is an electromagnetic field itself. So when we can learn to recharge and connect with nature, it then flips and then has that rebalancing effect on us. And a lot of people underestimate how powerful it is just to walk barefoot on the earth. And yeah. But at the same time, now we're seeing movements where you can get barefoot shoes that still work as shoes, but allow that energy conduction to come through because it's not being blocked by the rubber. So there is this shift of energy, and yeah, it's really beautiful how you link that all together. So I have to ask, only because serendipity, I just finished listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural. I had it on audiobook because I drive a lot. What was it like working with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and how did that change and lead to your hacking reality practices?
Okay. Well, first of all, his work is brilliant. So I've done probably, I can't remember, is it 20 events, week-long events I have done as well? The energy in the room is very high. You see a lot of times spontaneous healings, but I think because he's a very good teacher and he breaks it down very well, your body feels safe to start releasing whatever it is that you need. And exactly as you see him on the podcasts, he is in real life. So he's a very driven person. He is very immersive, and the events are not like we take breaks here and there and there. 6 a.m. in the morning till 8 p.m. in the evening. And in the old days, it was even longer. So, now he's modified it because so they're lovely. The events are lovely. He teaches a lot about. He trains us how to do healings, which is really, really very nice. And then eventually, he doesn't force you to comprehend the material, but if you keep on doing the work, you finally put the pieces together. Yeah. And an interesting component that most people haven't fully grasped, they think that the disease is in the body. The disease is never in the body. The disease is in the field at the light body before you enter the hologram. And so if you keep on working with modalities on the body, You may temporarily have a healing, and I'll give you an analogy. You have a flood in your apartment, right? Every month you clean the flood. For 3 weeks, you don't have the flood, but the same story. Why? Because on the third floor is where the pipe is broken and it's leaking. So if you're clearing the basement, you're going to still have a problem. And in the beginning, people run for these modalities, whatever it is, to heal. But ultimately, all healing is self healing. And you have to remove that imprint, that pattern that came from childhood. It doesn't matter if it came from another lifetime, because if you're experiencing in this lifetime, that means there was a trigger, an imprint early on in your childhood between the womb and 7. I usually go till 13. I know people say 7, but from my experience, I extend it to 13. And occasionally they could be a super traumatic standalone incident that happens later in life. And that may be standalone, but that doesn't happen very often. I've had clients, they say they had first time symptoms 19, and it's actually at 5 years old.
And it's really interesting that you say 13, because at 13 is when that prefrontal cortex starts to develop and we get the reasoning, and that's where and it's been so documented with all the brain injury studies that if people damage that prefrontal cortex, they don't have the social reasoning skills anymore, or judgment. They can't judge if that feels right for them or not for them. So it's interesting that you say till 13 with children, because their brain hasn't quite fully developed yet. So it makes sense that then those patterns are still not fully imprinted until they get to 13. But I have a really amazing example of this, what you were talking about. So I started having this numbness. This is a personal story, so I can definitely share it. I started having this numbness in my pinky, and I was like, oh, this started after I saw a chiropractor. It must have been maybe he over adjusted my neck, because intuitively I just kept hearing C3, C3, C3. And in the meantime, I booked in kind of to have some body work done. And my bodywork practitioner was just like, yeah, definitely it's C3, also maybe T1, T2, maybe go back to your chiropractor, see what's going on. So I went back and did an adjustment, because by this point the numbness had spread to my face. And I was like, what is going on? This is scary and crazy. And he readjusted it, and he's like, oh, it's just probably something's been shaken up. And I'm like, something doesn't feel right here. There's something weird. Anyway, so then I eventually went and saw a friend of mine who does biofield tuning with tuning forks. So she went in, and I said, I don't think it's nerve. And she goes, I don't think so either. And then she's checking my field. She's like, no, it's in your liver. And that's mind blowing, right? Because we would not think that nerve pain would be coming from the liver. And then that imprint. And what would actually happen was I discharged this spiritual guide that was being a bit too influential in my intuition and thoughts, and he hadn't let go. And as she was clearing that field, it was shifting out of that external imprinted area, and I could actually feel that guide grabbing my hand, he didn't want to let go. And you could see the red marks on my hand, and we're both there, yeah, and we're like, what is going on? It was just really intense, extreme experience. And then once she did that, the numbness completely stopped. It came back a little bit, and I had to do a bit more work, releasing the energy that had been blocked in the body because of that imprint. But like you said, it started outside of my body and then was showing up in my body physically.
Yep, that's how it works. Absolutely. You hit that one on the nail.
Yeah. And I was like, I have a perfect, this is why the universe makes us meet at certain times, right? Because I only just went through this experience over the last few weeks. So, yeah. But yeah, that's so fascinating. And then, so as you're working with shifting these imprints, what do you find happens with your clients?
Sometimes they have miraculous shifts. I had 2 interesting stories, not fully healed because we just started working. One had an unfortunate experience when she was a child, like 11, at the pediatrician. And she went inside the room with the pediatrician alone. The mother didn't come in. And she has had a frozen shoulder for years, many, many years. And I use the principles of German new medicine or meta consciousness, which is almost the same. And as we're tapping, and we cleared, and also she's had a very bad relationship with mother because she felt unprotected. Mm-hmm. So we cleared the emotions from the incident. And I want to address something that your audience should know. In EFT, I didn't even ask her for the full story. I don't need to know the story. All I need to know is the emotion, the belief. Because if I ask the story, I will re-traumatize the person. And we don't want to do that. So as we cleared it, then I brought into the matrix, which is part of the hacking reality, the mom. She verbalized, the anger, what the physician did. I don't want to be so explicit to reveal also the client, but whatever he did was super inappropriate to a female young girl. And she expressed her anger, and you didn't protect me, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, you know what? We tapped on the anger for the physician as well. Let's bring the physician. So you always bring them one at a time. So, the client feels protected. And as she's verbalizing what she wanted to say and all her anger and all whatever it is, she hears a voice and she hears him saying to the mother, stay outside. She blamed all this year, over 50 years, the mother because she thought the mother failed her. And she heard the voice that he wouldn't let her in. So then we continue, and once that cleared, I said, what movement would the younger self want to do? And she goes to lift the left arm. So the left is feminine for her, which is why there was anger towards the mom. But in this case also needed to push the person away. But as a young girl, she couldn't do it because this person could have done something worse, right? So the body protected her. After that cleared, she was able for the first time to rotate it and was able to extend it up to here. She couldn't go all the way back.
Yeah. Still.
But she got for the first time an extension. Because as you know, these emotions come in layers. And now she has the opportunity to have a new relationship with her mother because she never knew why she never trusted her mother. And it wasn't the mother's fault in this case.
No, and it is such like a little thing, and our consciousness will block it out. Our subconscious tends to block out those traumatic events for a very good reason, to keep us safe. But at the same time, like you said, it's so powerful that you can use EFT and the techniques we're talking about with the matrix imprints and things like that, so that you can pull out the underlying feelings and emotions that have led to that physical disease or symptom in the body. Absolutely. Without having to relive the trauma. And I had someone else on the show a few episodes ago talking about how talk therapy can be potentially so dangerous because they just keep talking out the same trauma and reliving the same thing again and again and again. And like you would say, they would never get to those delta waves. So they're always going to stay in that traumatic response because they haven't actually let go of the feelings around it. And by talking about it again and again and again, it's going to keep replaying it.
Absolutely, and the law from Donald Hebb is neurons that fire together wire together. So you actually keep on rewiring. But just to finish the previous story, what I like to do, and now after all of that is cleared, we re-imprint a new memory with an empowering message and a new belief. So now she can replay that in her mind, like she doesn't have to do the whole process, and eventually the old synaptic connections get pruned away. So in this case, I want to give some signs so people don't think this is woo-woo. So traumatic memories get stored in the hippocampus as high definition. So they're always replaying at night because the body's trying to resolve them. You're not seeing them, but they're replaying. But you often get triggered from similar situation. All you need is a stimulus and a response, an emotion or an image, and that anger or whatever that feeling is going to come up. So once the memory now, because it's not also properly time stamped. So your life is like a movie reel, picture frame, picture frame, picture frame. With EFT and then the hacking reality, which is similar to matrix reimprinting, the difference is someone else trained me and he does more advanced training. So they're almost the same. Now you timestamp each memory, because the first time when there's trauma, all the emotions are jumbled up together, not timestamped correctly. And then over a period of time, now they've got timestamped, they move to the neocortex. So they're no longer stored in the hippocampus. And then eventually they're going to become, if I were to ask you, what did you eat 7 days ago? You can't even remember. And that's what ultimately happens. I have traumatic memories that I can barely, like I remember them vaguely, and sometimes I wonder, was that me? Or maybe it's, so because there's no emotional charge. And that is the goal for this whole thing, to alleviate the body, especially at night, for this to show up. And that's why people's symptoms usually show up before they go to bed, or when they wake up, it's the worst. As they're waking up, their symptoms flare up, because afterwards we go back into stress phase, and the body, unless there's too much, then the body eventually is going to break down completely. Because people say, well, I'm just going on vacation. Well, when you go on vacation, that's when all your symptoms show up.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. I remember when I finished high school and we done our final exams, and I was so stressed. And then I was so excited to go on, we had a thing called a schoolies cruise, right? So you can imagine like this group of teenagers on a boat and you can just drink, right? So anyway, and because the stress had come down and I like let myself out, I got so sick. Like it was the sickest I think I'd been in my life at that point. And and it's so true. I knew straight away, I'm like, oh, it's because I'm not stressed anymore. And even to have that intuition at 18, like to see like, yeah. And even later on, as I went through my toxic company stress, all those sort of things, every time I would get to a holiday, I get unwell because, like you said, the cortisol has a chance to come down and then all your symptoms come out.
Well, you were lucky that you were so brilliant to know that. I didn't figure that out till 50 years later.
Yeah. Except I then was coping by just keeping my stress levels up, which isn't healthy either. I can't even think of what I was going to say with that. So it's funny you say too, where like when you wake up first thing in the morning, because that's when my numbness was the worst, when I was going through that numbness. So it was obviously coming through in my subconscious when I was sleeping. And I think that's a really powerful thing, because so many people will say, oh, it's so hard to get out of bed, and then I'm okay, right? So that itself would be a flag. There's something going deeper in the surface.
Absolutely. You're working on something. And also people think when they have the active symptoms, they actually think that's when the disease is happening. Actually, that is the healing phase. So and that took me a long time to grasp. So asthma is in the healing phase, and everybody thinks if there's something wrong, and then you put the corticosteroids and you're never really healing it. And so you keep on having, as they call them, hanging conflicts, and you never end up healing, and it becomes chronic disease. And it's very difficult to grasp that the body is healing when you're having the symptoms. There are a few conditions, and I don't know them offhand, that are not in the healing phase. So tinnitus, or tinnitus, however they pronounce it, is not in the healing phase. It's always in the stress phase. When it starts healing, it's going to produce pus and like an infection. And people get ultimately scared. Just imagine you're doing a spring cleaning, right? You empty everything out. Well, the room is going to look like a mess.
Yeah.
Well, the body is doing the same thing. It's bringing all the toxins, and depending on the condition, it's going to show up. So, skin is separation. If there are boils on the skin or scratching, there's anger with it. So, I mean, this is a generic. It goes very specific. Yeah. I'm just talking in general. And so people can use that to try to find out what memories in my early childhood have created the problem. I'll give you a perfect example that involves the kidneys, which is fear. So, but it involves the bladder. So not being able to micturate, which is the medical term to urinate.
Yeah.
So you can't empty your bladder. You keep on waking up all the time. It's based on our old brain where animals used to mark their territory. Your cat will make sure it's going to mark the territory. So if you cannot eliminate, meaning urinate, that elimination is because in childhood you weren't feeling safe to mark your territory. So you have to find memories in your childhood when you didn't feel safe in your own home. Maybe someone attacked you in the middle of the night. Maybe someone beat you up in the middle of the night. It could have been only once or twice. But now you're not going to feel safe, because what happens when there's danger? A tiger, there's T-Rex right here. Usually there's one elimination, but not everybody has it. And then the body stops everything because we have to run and we have to leave.
Yeah.
And so urination is not going to be the primary thing that the body wants to do. And so the pattern gets re-triggered and you never eliminate. Urinate, not the other elimination.
Yeah, and then it just keeps building up in your body. That is such a beautiful example of how, we still have that, reptilian survival mode in us, and that's what our body will default to when it is pushed far enough, because it will go into survival mode. And that's often when, like you said, all those things get triggered, and it makes complete sense. So as we finish our time together, Sophia, I feel like we could keep talking, but if you could change or heal something in the world, what would it be?
Their belief system of pretty much the collective. So a belief is being in a lie. Lie. So there has to be a knowing that we can heal and we create our lives, and the body under the right conditions can completely heal. So if I had the opportunity to change the collective beliefs, I'd love to do that. And then the people would be all empowered and not be under the spell of medicine. And I'm not saying it doesn't have its right place, because if I break my arm, I will go.
Agreed. Yep.
But for other stuff, I won't.
Yeah, exactly.
Because now the person, once you don't have your health, you're always in survival. And if I had a magic wand to do that, I'd love to empower people to know that the body can do anything, no matter what your age group. And Dr. Joe usually says, and there's no one that's excluded from this formula.
Yeah, exactly. And I interviewed this beautiful lady the other week, and at 57, she got her black belt. And she said she mainly went and did it because she wanted to challenge the ageism mentality that her body's meant to be falling apart, when she'd never felt so strong and powerful at that age. And she's still going 10 years later. So, it just goes to show exactly what you said. Age doesn't apply. Your body can do these miraculous things. We just need to remember and unpack the narrative that we've been fed, really.
Absolutely.
And if people want to connect or work with you, Sophia, how can they find you?
Sure, absolutely. They can come to my website. I have a 30-minute complimentary session. I have lots of blogs that I write about other stuff about EFT, other than EFT, some quantum physics stuff. I offer a free masterclass, and I have one coming up on the 17th, 12 noon EST. And then the actual class, which is Change Your Mind, Create New Results, the course that Dr. Joe Dispenza designed, will be in May 8th. So it's a master class to get information about the actual class. So I offer the master class and the consult complimentary, but they could just join to find out which direction they need to go. What is it that they can help them? Because maybe I have a different suggestion for them. And I'm happy to help anybody who's stuck, because I was stuck I felt almost through eternity. It just felt such a long time being stuck. And if I can get someone a little bit unstuck the same way I did, you can have a better life.
Exactly. So beautifully put. I will make sure to include all those details in the show notes for anyone listening as well, so they can definitely connect with Sophia. And thank you so much for sharing your time, and it's been a real honor speaking with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor, and you asked lovely questions. I really appreciated you invited me. And I want to say one thing, because I think it might be crucial for people. I don't know what your audience exactly is. If you really feel the body can heal, even though we have a neuroplastic brain, you're not physically healing this body. When you change your thoughts, emotions, actions, and deeds, you move to a parallel timeline that your body is whole. So if people feel there was too much damage, too much toxins on this one, we now know from quantum physics, and they got the Nobel Prize in 2022 for non-locality, that we live in the multiverse. You are shifting to a parallel timeline. So don't worry about this physical vessel. There's one parallel just running right now as a still frame that you can go and inhabit.
I love that. That is so perfect. And I love quantum physics, so just lighting up my life. But thank you again, Sophia. And yeah, if anyone wants to contact with her, check out the show notes and just jump on and embrace the free offer that she has, because this woman, I can just feel, is emanating energy and just ready to help.
Yeah. Very much.
Thank you for listening to Willow Healing Matters, the podcast. We have so much love and gratitude that you have taken the time out of your day to empower you on your healing journey. The views shared by the person being interviewed might not necessarily reflect that of the host and should be used at your own discernment. Trust what resonates for you and follow your heart and soul guidance. If you have any underlying medical conditions or mental health issues, please consult with your healthcare provider before pursuing any of the recommendations. Likewise, you can always contact the person being interviewed to find out more information. This can be found in the show notes. Until next time, remember to activate, align, heal, empower, and find love in everything that you do.